Okay, another reaction video. I found this cosplayers who became wanted criminals, which is funny because I'm part of the cosplay community, so it would be fun to see what's going on here. Haven't watched the video yet, of course. I'm trying to do like normal reactions. If something is inappropriate or becomes inappropriate, I probably won't post a video at that point, or I'll cut it out. But, like I said, these are genuine reactions, have not watched it before. Alright, let's see what this is all about.
From a portly Punisher with a Comic-Con murder plot
Wait,
to a redneck Raven cosplay.
Go back.
From a portly Punisher.
That's Phoenix, Arizona. There's the cactus, there's the statues. This is Fan Fusion or Game On Expo or anything like that. I attend those quite regularly, so I know those statues because I always thought it was weird that they would be like here. Okay, yeah, that's Arizona.
With a Comic-Con murder plot to a redneck
Phoenix Convention Center, for sure.
Raven cosplayer kidnapping a teen to a Japanese Joker truly fed up with society. Today we'll be exploring the bizarre underbelly of the cosplaying community, discussing a handful of eccentric crimes committed by some of its more unhinged, costumed characters.
Okay. Anime, gaming, and cosplaying conventions can be some pretty stinky places. Might want to stop the stench with today's sponsor, Mando. Mando is great.
Okay, we are gonna ignore the ad. It's only a myth that they're stinky places, by the way, guys. Last year at ALA, one of the security guards said we were the best smelling group that's ever been in the building. So, and he wasn't joking or being kidding. Cosplayers do shower quite regularly. It's a myth. At least I haven't smell any stinky ones, but that's just me.
Regularly participating. Most of the time, it's just a fun hobby that allows otherwise unrelated people to meet up, offering a great opportunity to make new friends. On one occasion, however,
honestly, that's why I started attending cons. I do like 20 a year, and it's just a great way to meet people that have the same passions or hobbies that you do. So I haven't seen anything horribly dangerous. That I haven't been to every con in the world, or there's probably some shady stuff going on that I don't know about. But that's with everything. Cons are normally generally nice. I've never had anyone steal from me or do anything bad at a con. In fact, I left some of my merchandise at Anime Expo, and a group of cosplayers gathered around it and waited till I came back for it. After, like, I forgot I was there, and it was probably $1,000 worth of stuff, and they protected it and waited until I came back. I've never had that happen in any other type of community, so I think cons are great. But
a woman was met with a nightmare situation after a crazed stalker who participated in the community took notice of her. The story begins in January of 2019.
Oh my goodness, it's ALA. I was just talking about it, but ALA, the first year I ever went to that particular con was, trying to remember, 2022. It always happens in January. It's like the second week. It's one of my favorite cons because it's small, but you also get like ribbons that are like unique to the con. You can also make your own ribbons. Like I made a bunch of ReZero ones last year for like season 3. So this is before I started going to that particular con.
Anime Los Angeles convention was set to take place at the Ontario Convention Center. Anime enthusiasts attended the event.
Ontario Convention Center. So right now the ALA has been in Long Beach since I've been going to it, and it hasn't left. I know it used to be in LA, hence the name Anime LA, but it's been in Long Beach for at least the last 3 years.
With many showing up in elaborate outfits, cosplaying as their favorite characters. One such individual was Matthew Toyotome, also known as Ninja Lee. He was a part of a Power Rangers cosplay group, and usually dressed up as the Yellow Power Ranger. Taking a look at his social media, Matthew was quite the peculiar figure. Aside from the Yellow Ranger stuff, he often posted photos of himself wielding replica firearms, LARPing as a covert secret agent of sorts.
Okay, so firearms are no longer allowed in most comms, even fake ones with like the orange tip or anything, just because safety demands it, and with everything going on, it's probably for the best. But a lot of cosplays use those orange tips to show that they're not real firearms. ALA, I know, strictly prohibits anything that looks like a gun right now. I had people complaining about it like last year. I have a cosplayer friend that dresses up like Metal Gear Solid characters, and his like whole cosplay is dependent on guns, and he wasn't too happy about it last year. But again, it's for safety. The best way to keep people safe at events like this is to have a bunch of security that has firearms to protect the people attending the event. All right.
Hiding behind trees and taking tactical positions behind walls and trash cans. Though odd, his behavior...
His gun does have a yellow or orange tip, though. It doesn't look like he's pretending it's real. I don't think these photos alone show something that's like harmful, but we'll see what this guy says about it.
Was innocuous. Matthew's true slide into criminality is born
that is not a too flattering
out of an unhealthy obsession. The man began developing feelings towards a woman in his cosplaying circle. Her name was Julia. Julia was a member of Matthew's Power Ranger group, and she dressed up as the Pink Ranger. The story goes that Matthew would eventually make his romantic feelings known to Julia, but she wasn't interested and politely rejected his advances.
Key moment. Key thing. If a girl rejects you, leave her alone. Just saying. In today's world, it's a very dangerous thing when you don't leave someone alone after they reject you. Don't leave them alone.
At this point, you would expect that he would simply accept his losses here and move on with his life like a normal person. But if he did, we wouldn't be talking about this guy, would we? Matthew was furious about getting rejected. His anger simmered and boiled over into a full-on hatred towards the Pink Ranger that politely rejected his advances. The deranged man started plotting his revenge, a plan that he would eventually execute during one of the night's festivities at Anime LA Con. On January 16th, Matthew strolled into the parking lot of the Azure Hotel and Suites, where Julia's vehicle was parked. In surveillance footage that was later publicly released online, you can see the man casually smoking a cigarette. Later in the clip, he walks over to her car and pours gasoline all over it before proceeding to set it on fire. As Matthew quickly left the scene of the crime, flames engulfed the surrounding cars in the lot, causing massive amounts of property damage. This also resulted in the hotel's fire alarms being triggered. Authorities were called soon after, with hotel customers even being evacuated. Local news outlet ABC7 interviewed a hotel patron named Hank Lugan, who had this to say.
Like, one of the police officers were cutting through one of the cars. This is crazy. I think one of the people that we actually know, their cars are like completely melted.
While nobody had been physically injured, 7 different vehicles in total sustained some form of damage. Despite the fire, police were...
I would like to say that this can happen at any type of, like, event, any kind of, like, admiration towards someone. Taylor Swift has had stalkers. It's not just anime cons or cons like that. So, just to be clear, this can happen at, like, any type of, like, unquented feelings. And it's not good at any stage, because it can lead to destructive of property, but it can also hurt people.
Initially hesitant to classify it as an arson attack, though their opinion regarding this matter soon changed after being provided footage of the guy literally creating the fire by the hotel manager. When questioned, Julia and her at-the-time boyfriend...
Again, I don't know any of these people. This is the first time I've heard of these stories, so I don't know if he's in prison. I don't know if he's in jail, but I would suspect that you would get years for the amount of property damage, not to mention what he's going to do next, maybe. I have no idea. Hopefully, Julia is going to be okay.
Quickly identified Matthew as the individual in the video. The man was soon arrested, being charged not just for the arson attempt, but for his obsessive stalking as well, being given and held on a whopping $250,000 bail. Julia would make an Instagram post detailing the ordeal, thanking everyone for their support and asking for contributions to her GoFundMe, which eventually raised over $15,000. Some of the other victims of the fire also asked for donations, with the entire cosplay community rallying together to try to give what they could. This guy...
See, the cosplay community as a whole made up of some really kind-hearted people. And the community band together around her and helped pay off her car or whatnot. But, like, that's indicative to what I've seen over the years of being a member of the cosplay community. Okay.
I was clearly a disturbed individual, and I'm thankful that his incel rage only resulted in property damage and that nobody...
Me too. And, yeah, this picture is weird.
He was physically injured or worse. Redneck Raven cosplayer gets prison. Teen Titans is a classic superhero show in the minds of both casual...
Okay, so I loved Teen Titans growing up. I thought it was a very adult show for me being a kid, and it had a very complex story, and it was really good. I'm not talking about Teen Titans Go. That is such a mockery of, like, what the original show was. And it just had a bunch of DC lore, where Slade Wilson has never been so cool. As a bad guy till Teen Titans. But like I said, if you've never seen the show before, it has really good animation, really good story plot. I do recommend it.
Casual and hardcore cartoon lovers. Adults and children alike found the characters layered and dynamic, with Raven possibly being the best example within the show. Our next...
Personally, my favorite character was Starfire, but that's just me. Well, actually... Scratch that. I think Robin was my favorite because he was really tech savvy at the time, and I was really tech savvy at the time, and I thought he was really cool. Starfire is a close second.
Next subject was a Raven cosplayer who not only fails to emulate Raven in just about every way imaginable, but this Titan ironically would help in the kidnapping of a teen. On November 4th, 2022, an unnamed teenage girl was abducted by a then 22-year-old man named Kobe Jerome Jordan.
Some people just don't look 22. He definitely doesn't look 22 to me. If you would have shown me this picture and asked me to guess his age, and maybe I'm not the best judge of such things, but I would say that this guy is definitely 32. But, yeah.
He had allegedly picked her up in his truck late at night, bringing her to the home of a woman named Molly Michelle Jarrett, who lived in the town of Pansy, Alabama. Another woman named Destiny Star Lewis was also present throughout.
I'm not gonna lie, that's not even a good Raven cosplay. It's close, but the face just doesn't make it seem like Raven's face would be once she, like, grew up. I don't think that's a great cosplay.
Out this entire ordeal. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office...
And yes, I will criticize people on their cosplays. But luckily, I know some of the coolest cosplayers, so there's no criticizing to be found with those people. All right.
This kidnapped young girl had initially gone with the man willingly. To this day, it's unclear what the girl's relationship to these three adults were, and if it is known, it might be hidden for privacy purposes. However, it can be reasonably assumed that she was on decent terms with them beforehand.
So, if someone does, this is a good point. I studied criminology in college and criminal justice, and I do think that, you know, if a victim did nothing wrong, that their details should be secret, especially if they're a minor, and I think that's already in play, but even if they're, like, younger, like early 20s or something, I think they shouldn't have their whole life determined by this unless they check a box saying, I'm willing to have this in the public record. And that's only if the victim has done nothing wrong that needs to be said, because if they did do something wrong even a little bit, the defendants, in this case, Raven or whatever, would have like the right to like speak out, like, this is why this happened, this is so forth, so forth. But if the victim did nothing to cause this incident whatsoever, and there was no basis for a defense, the victim should be like kept secret unless the victim wants to speak out. That's just my personal opinion.
Making what happened next all the more shocking. The girl was taken to an abandoned building in Jackson County, Florida. Keep in mind that Pansy is close to the border between the two states, meaning that they hadn't actually traveled that far. This is where the pleasantries seemed to stop, with Kobe binding her limbs with duct tape and brutally beating her. The trio then dumped the teenager at a seemingly random spot nearby, driving back home to Alabama soon after. The young girl was fortunately able to break free of her bonds and
not the smartest criminals. In fact, there's very rarely smart criminals in the world, and even smart criminals will make mistakes that will get them caught. God definitely protected this girl from getting hurt. I am convinced, because it could have been a lot worse. And if these criminals would, how should I put it? It's never smart to hurt anyone. But these criminals just literally let her go to be found. Thank goodness for that. But they didn't think it was going to come back to them? I just don't understand. All right.
Got out and found help. A report had already been filed after she was spotted by a nearby resident, with the teen's testimony resulting in an investigation being launched. Given the fact that the victim knew exactly, who the perpetrators were and where they lived, it wasn't exactly difficult for police to track them down.
Exactly. It wasn't difficult. They weren't thinking about it at all. Thank goodness, though. Thank goodness that little girl wasn't hurt, and thank goodness that this was wrapped up pretty quickly.
While this story is pretty crazy on its own, it was photos taken after the perpetrators captured that garnered the most attention by the press. In a Facebook post published by Florida's Jackson County Sheriff's Office, photos of the deranged criminals were showcased. And in one of them, you can clearly see here that Molly is sporting a Raven cosplay, the costume being worn during the perpetration of the...
I know that this video is like cosplayers who became cosplayers who become wanted criminals, and she is technically cosplaying, but at the same time, I don't know. Does she think she's Raven? It doesn't look like she's coming from a con, or even the victim was at a con or anything. I'm just, I guess it is right. She is cosplaying, but does she really think she's Raven? I don't know her mental stability.
The crime. To this day, it is somewhat unclear as to why she was wearing this Raven cosplay.
Okay, I was just commenting on that. That is crazy. That's funny. All right.
If I had to take a guess, I'd say maybe them being from South Alabama had something to do with it. The juxtaposition of such a serious criminal offense being carried out by someone wearing a...
Why would being from South Alabama be a reason?
A half-baked Raven costume caused many in the comments section to mock the individuals responsible, with the story becoming a full-blown meme of sorts. Bizarrely, Molly's photo was even featured in official news coverage of the situation, adding to its absurdity.
2 are behind bars tonight.
Okay, that's the reason, is because the media wants views, and because it's something that's not standard or something that's rare that would catch someone's eye in order to click on or watch the news story. That's why they were focusing on her. Obviously, it's just like us YouTubers trying to get views.
After being arrested for kidnapping a girl in Jackson County, Florida, Colby Jerome Jordan is accused of kidnapping a girl Friday evening.
Watch how fast it
met up with
pans
2
to
other
Raven.
females, one of whom is Molly Michelle Jarrett.
Despite all the jokes being made at the criminal's expense, the authorities weren't...
See, they didn't even show the other girl. I'm sure maybe if I watched the whole news story, they would, but they didn't even... Like, they're going to pan so fast to Raven. They're going to say the main perp is the guy, but then look at Raven here. And, of course, she's just as guilty, but it's just funny because we know that it's going to be focusing more on Raven than anything else.
Laughing, at least publicly. In March of 2024, all three individuals responsible for the...
Ooh, 2024. That's this year. Interesting. Sentence, Houston,
kidnapping were officially charged. While they had initially pled not guilty in 2023, it appeared that their tune had changed as...
Wait, so you can't go back.
In March of 2024, all three individuals responsible for the kidnapping were officially charged. While they had initially pled not guilty in 2023...
Okay, so they pled not guilty. I thought he said that they were found not guilty, which means they couldn't be tried for it again, double jeopardy, right? But they pled not guilty, and now they're pleading guilty for a plea deal. Okay, that happens all the time.
It appeared that their tune had changed as the legal case proceeded. The fact that they had crossed state lines also didn't help their situation, with the incident being...
No, it doesn't. If you cross state lines while committing a crime, not only will you get charged in the state that you went to, you could potentially be liable in the state you came from as well. So, crossing state lines is one of the worst things you can do in this situation. I wouldn't want to commit any crimes, and I'm sure any viewer watching wouldn't want to commit crimes either. But I'm just saying, this alone isn't smart at all.
Considered a federal crime. In the end, Kobe was given 7
federal crime, and then you get state crimes. You get both.
Years. Destiny was given almost 6, and Molly...
Oh, I was talking. I did not hear what
and help their situation, with the incident being considered a federal crime. In the end, Kobe was given 7 years.
7 years.
Destiny was given almost 6, and Molly...
That's actually... So you can get 5 to 7 years for this stuff, and 7 is probably the max where they come from. I know they said charged with federal crime. I wouldn't be surprised if they got charged with a state crime later on, or that they'll already... I mean, this happened... I'm not sure when this video was. 21 hours ago. They could still get caught with a state crime in here as well, increasing those sentence, or at least being sent to a different prison to increase those sentence. I'm not sure if they'll get a state crime. Depends how much the prosecutor really wants to go for that.
The redneck Raven was given 11 with no chance of parole.
11? Whoa. 11 years. That is way more than the guy who actually beat her. And
Kobe was given 7 years. Destiny was given almost 6.
There has to be something more that the Raven girl did than the other people, or I doubt it would be because she's the most famous person on here.
And Molly, the redneck Raven, was given 11 with no chance of parole.
There had to be something else.
They are currently serving out their sentences, hopefully never being able to cause harm to any more innocent teens again. For now, she'll be Azarath Metrion sitting her ass in prison.
I'm gonna have to look that up.
Superhero attacked by a real-life villain.
But of course, I don't know every state. Well, this is federal, so he didn't mention state. But I wonder if someone hit her with a state after the fact, and that's why it increased to 11 years. 11 years seems high for this incident if she did everything that everyone else did. I felt like the guy should have got more, but again, I don't know all the details of the case. I'm going to have to look into that afterwards.
Shorn Pitt, or Ray for short, was a local phenomena in Florida. As a deaf person, Ray has sadly had fewer...
I have never heard of this person in my life, but we'll see.
...opportunities in life, often struggling to find positive ways to channel his energy. He was adopted...
To tell you the truth... Hearing loss is a very scary thing, and being deaf for your whole life, not being able to hear anything, that's harsh.
by his father, a man named Rusty Pitt, and his wife Angie, all the way back in 2004. And growing up was a battle. Ray struggled with a lack of social skills and often lagged behind as a result. To top it all off, his adoptive father unfortunately passed away when Ray was a teenager, making his life even more difficult. Though a publication known as the Daily Commercial reported that began to look up for Ray after a kind-hearted U.S. military veteran befriended him and gifted him a Superman costume. Ray was a big fan of superheroes and kung fu movies, and this costume allowed him a way to become his larger-than-life role models in a way and channel his creative energies. At 20 years old, Ray, donning his gifted...
Superman was almost, is a DC iconic hero, but he's also an iconic hero in all comic books. He's one of the first ones to, like, really capture the hearts and minds of a lot of people. And I know Batman's more popular now, but it wouldn't have happened without Superman. So... yeah, Superman's cool.
Superman costume began standing on a street corner next to the highway in his hometown of Mineola, Florida, performing action moves and shadow boxing as cars passed by, doing so purely to entertain the public.
That's cool. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. In fact, if you guys ever go to Las Vegas, and I'm not talking about the sus entertainers on the street, but there's actually a lot of like people dressing up as, you know, stuff inside the malls and inside the hotels that's not so sus. That really gives the city life, I think, or at least a theme park kind of feel. Again, there's a lot of sus stuff in Las Vegas, but there's also some stuff that's not so sus. So, yeah. Okay.
Occasional mean-spirited person making fun of him, most of the local residents found his presence to be positive, eventually dubbing Ray the Mineola superhero. Overall, it was a positive experience for him. It provided him with an opportunity to express himself, all while becoming a well-known...
Wait, I forgot the title of this video. I wonder if he becomes a criminal or if someone does something to him. That's... both things are sad.
And frankly, beloved member of the community. However, this would change in the summer of 2017 when Ray met 26-year-old Tyler McCorvey. This deranged individual, for some reason, had a desire to fight the deaf superhero. According to later witness reports,
oh no.
Tyler was seen mocking Ray's disability before physically assaulting him. The incident was described by a woman who personally knew him in an interview with a local news station.
I saw him imitating Ray's moves. In between imitating them, he would hit him for real.
Interestingly, a video of the Mineola superhero and the villain does exist online, being posted to YouTube shortly after the story broke by a man named the Rocky Walsh.
Yelling at him maybe for being out there doing a Superman.
Tyler McCorvey was quickly found and arrested, with many baffled as to why he had attacked a beloved local hero. It would soon become clear that the man was extremely unstable mentally. After his arrest, he claimed that he was innocent and hadn't hurt anyone, despite there being clear evidence of so.
That doesn't mean he's mentally ill because he doesn't claim that he did it. However, there's probably a lot other evidence that points this way.
This defense didn't work. He started having a complete mental breakdown. Police claimed in later statements to news outlets that the man screamed at the top of his lungs, even going as far as to dunk his head into a toilet while claiming he wanted to die at the police station. According to WESH News, he was eventually charged with 2 counts of battery and aggravated abuse of a disabled adult. Despite the upsetting nature of this story, there was a silver lining to it. Ray didn't let the incident stop him from pursuing his hobbies as a superhero, and he went right back to the same street corner soon after to continue his work shadowboxing and entertaining the public. Because of this and the viral nature of the story, Ray became a sensation overnight, with hundreds of local residents showing their support for him on social media. A Facebook page was started in his honor, and many passers-by gave him drinks and other gifts while he stood out dancing in the hot sun, with cheerful people honking at him as they passed by.
I
do want to clear one misconception that I've seen about this story online. The majority of news outlets that have reported on this story claimed that Ray was autistic. Just know that according to Ray's mother, this guy isn't autistic, he's simply deaf.
Yep.
As simple as that could be,
sense.
I guess. His mother, Angie, claimed that he had developmental issues, but denied that it was the result of autism. Though regardless, he was still a disabled adult who had been unjustly victimized. Thankfully, the community came together to support him. While the criminal in this story isn't actually the cosplayer,
That's why I was wondering at the start of this that it wasn't actually the cosplayer.
Want to include it. The Mineola superhero story is a nice reminder that sometimes strangers can band together to make a positive impact on someone's life. These people came together to support an at-risk individual who they beloved in their town. While it's unclear exactly what the Mineola superhero is up to today, a video has been posted in recent years showing that he's on the same street corner performing his signature moves.
That's cool. If I ever see him, I'm
Obese
totally
Punisher gets busted. One of the most iconic anti-heroes to come from comics is the Punisher. The Punisher took matters into his own hands, often killing criminals.
I might be going to MegaCon this year, which would be in Florida. So that might happen. I'm not sure if it's going to fit with my schedule. I believe it's in February, but that's going to be a con I'm going to really try to go to this year.
As a part of his own brand of vigilante justice. However, the fictional character unfortunately served as the inspiration for a potentially deadly crime.
Guys, try not to skip and listen to me. Please do everything you can to help me buy a new tent.
That took place back in 2017. Matthew Sterling was a then 29-year-old man who, for some reason,
I know I joke about those, but half of those commercials are fake just to grab your money. A lot of those pleas that you see in those commercials are definitely fake. They probably have... Now, I'm not saying this person in particular, but I think overall, a lot of these people probably have more money than you do. In my humble opinion.
And developed a hatred of the actor Jason David Frank. Frank being best known for playing the iconic 90s iteration of the Green Power Rangers character. While his logic was a bit unclear, it seems Sterling's rage was enough for him to want to take matters into his own hands. Matthew Sterling hatched a plot to show up.
Matthew Sterling, like Scott Sterling from Studio C? I'm just saying.
Up to the 2017 Comic-Con event held in Arizona while dressed up.
Oh no, this is the Arizona one. This is the one we saw at the beginning. Let's go back to
rage was enough for him to want to take matters into his own hands. Matthew Sterling hatched a plot.
By the way, before you ask, yes, I was here this year. I was at this event that this actually happened, and yeah, it was crazy.
Show up to the 2017 Comic-Con event held in Arizona.
By the way, this was a Thursday, if I remember right, and we were like herded into like different buildings. They actually knew he was coming all along. The police set up trap for him, if I remember correctly. So the cosplayers weren't actually in any danger, and from what I remember, he was actually after the police, which is stupid. He was actually posting on his social media on the way to the event, so the police were like waiting for him and just like tracking him as he drove here. I think he came from somewhere in California. I knew a lot more about this at the time, and then over the years, you know, COVID happened and all this stuff, and I didn't care about this guy's backstory as much. But at the time, this was a really big deal. This actually marked the start of the whipping ban in Arizona. I remember that Friday and Saturday we had to make like cardboard cutouts of the whippings we would bring. They wouldn't even let me bring my sonic screwdriver in, and I dress up as Doctor Who. If you know what the sonic screwdriver is, it's not even a gun. It's just a little like device that can extend, and they wouldn't even let me bring that in. So we had to like take cardboard cutouts of our whippings for the rest of that year, and they haven't allowed swords or weapons since. They've become less strict on it, especially if you buy inside the con like lightsabers and stuff like that, but for a long time they wouldn't even let lightsabers in. Alright,
dressed up as the Punisher, and he wanted to shoot Jason when he was there. The actor being a scheduled speaker at
Okay, he wanted to shoot Jason. This is a little bit different than what I remembered. I thought he was after police officers, but that could have been the story that they told us at the time so that they wouldn't freak people out.
The event. Matthew also planned to kill any police officers who tried to stop him.
I was right. Look at that.
The overweight Punisher purchased real firearms and an assortment of other
Okay, so I had like part of the truth with the police officers, but yeah.
Weapons. He geared up and traveled to the convention, arriving on May 25th. The thing is, since realistic guns are worn quite often at cosplays, nobody really gave him much of a second glance.
Not anymore. You don't see this anymore, especially in Arizona. The people, and I'm calling it Fan Fusion right now. I don't remember if it was actually called Fan Fusion in 2017. I think that was after the Comic-Con threatened to sue everyone. The store Comic-Con in New York threatened to sue everyone, so everyone had to change their names for every single con. So Phoenix Comic-Con became Phoenix Fan Fusion, and I think this is after that. But Phoenix Fan Fusion still doesn't allow this kind of stuff anymore. It's unfortunate.
Surveillance footage shows the portly Punisher walking around freely, going up and down the halls without any interruption, though he would eventually draw some attention. The details of how this man was stopped were covered extensively in a lengthy article by the Phoenix New Times. According to this...
I didn't read this article. At the time, I listened to all the news stories over the weekend, but I didn't read this specific article.
Publication, Matthew had avoided numerous security checkpoints and entered the convention with his guns.
Yeah, so the police knew he was coming. He was posting it on social media, and it blindsided Phoenix Fan Fusion that the police... Well, I'm not going to say didn't warn them. I don't know what happened between Phoenix Fan Fusion and the police, but Phoenix Fan Fusion was blindsided by how this guy was allowed in and how this guy was like walking around. It totally messed up all those security details. By the way, if you didn't know, Phoenix Fan Fusion is current security is Pride security group. I don't know if Pride was here during then. I would have to look into that. But I think Pride Security Group, in my own opinion, is the worst security company I have ever seen run cons or anything. But Phoenix Fan Fusion has to use them because they are contracted by the convention center that they host these cons at. So anyone that has a con at the Phoenix Convention Center has to use Pride Security Group, and I think they are just a terrible security group. That's my own opinion. I have some instances where I think they were terrible, and I do have some instances where I thought they handled stuff pretty well. But I do think that overall they are a terrible security group. All right.
Without issue. Officers had become aware of his presence due to a disturbing tip they had received from an acquaintance of him. Apparently, he had been messaging them on social media about plans and had made numerous
social media. They knew he was coming.
Concerning posts as well. After hearing about this, authorities entered the con and tried to find him. They soon would find Matthew and approached him to detain, but they struggled.
Now, so that yellow shirt right there is just a Comic-Con security. It could be a volunteer, it could not be a volunteer, but he works for the con. That's not actually the security. I don't think that's the security group at the time. Again, I don't know if Pride was here yet, but I don't think that's actual security.
Significantly when trying to subdue him. This was due to the man's enormous weight. Eventually, though, this guy would be brought into custody. After he was arrested and questioned, it was clear that this guy was...
so it does look like the security. They wore yellow back then. It does look like that was security. My mistake.
More mentally deranged than anyone could have predicted. He seemed to believe he was the actual real-life embodiment of the Punisher. The guy was completely nuts, saying that he had actually...
It's funny that he said he was completely nuts, because I was thinking the same exact sentence before he said it. Alright.
Previously stabbed Jason Frank, the Green Power Ranger, 15 years ago, and wanted to finish the job.
I didn't know that at all. So he has a prior history of hurting someone.
Guy was completely nuts, saying that he had actually previously stabbed Jason Frank, the Green Power Ranger, 15 years ago and wanted to finish the job. And no, he did not stab Jason 15 years
I was about to say, if he's... Yeah, that didn't sound real. Okay.
ago. The guy was cuckoo. In true Punisher fashion, he also stated he believed corrupt...
You have to be a little cuckoo in order to post all your plans on social media. Thank goodness for cuckoo people, because this was stopped before anyone was hurt.
Police officers needed to be killed, and that he was the man to do it.
Yeah, so the police officer thing I heard extensively, and this confirms this right here. But I didn't know he was actually after the actor that played Punisher. That's super weird.
After an investigation, it was also discovered that Matthew Sterling had set a reminder on his cell phone to kill the Power Rangers actor on that day of Comic-Con, setting it as like an alert.
Okay, I thought it was the Punisher actor. My mistake is me trying to give some commentary without fully listening. I thought it was I thought he was after the Punisher, not after Power Rangers actor.
In his iPhone. This bro had the fucking alarm setups for it. Obviously, this was a lot to take in for the media who was reporting on this case. While the incident was certainly very serious, the bizarre nature of his claims, combined with his unique look, caused some onlookers to find the whole ordeal somewhat funny, including myself. A local news outlet seemed to subtly mock him in their report, making multiple references about the guy's weight.
This guy, as you can see, Matthew Sterling, is a big guy, and we can see him from several angles on that day as he walked through the Phoenix Convention Center for Phoenix Comic-Con this year. That struggle is not captured on any of the center's cameras. You can see Sterling is massive in size. It did take some time for officers to take him into custody.
Jason the Green Ranger himself would soon respond to the incident. In an interview with the NBC News affiliate, he said, "I've already forgiven him. Do I want him to serve jail time and get mental help? Absolutely."
I've already forgiven him. That's actually a big statement, and I think he's genuine about it just by reading it. I mean, Frank never came in contact with him, but I think that's a big deal. I think that's a good thing.
Convention director also made a statement to Facebook claiming that the event was now upping its security measures. This included banning props.
We all hated this. All of us congoers, we all hated this and complained the whole weekend. And I can understand why they did what they had to do, but we were not happy campers. And we let them know that for all of 2017, all of 2018, all of 2019, till the pandemic. And once the pandemic came, everyone just kind of forgot about it, even though most of those measures are still in place.
Of any kind in an effort to prevent weapons from sneaking through again. This resulted in a significant amount of backlash from attendees in the comments, with many feeling that it was an overreaction. It wasn't just the comments. Why don't you ask Jason Frank? I think he would say it's not an overreaction. I think anybody looking at this rationally would say that it was probably a pragmatic choice to ban the fake replicas just for this con.
Like I said, I think they were right to do what they did, especially for that con. But I think you need to not be afraid either in the future. I think you need to put up more security, more metal detectors, more whatever you need to do to keep people safe. But you can't just be afraid for the rest of your life. You need to be able to allow people to bring their props in after they are thoroughly checked. All right.
While Sterling initially pled not guilty in court, the proof was undeniable. The real question, though, was this guy culpable considering his mental health? Given the fact that he was clearly mentally ill, his lawyers sought an insanity plea on the basis that he didn't know he was doing anything wrong when perpetrating his deed. In an article...
What if I told you this was the last ad you would ever see?
I don't...
by AZ Central.
I can't believe YouTube actually allows Pi to like put ads on the thing. I guess it might be a legal thing that they can't discriminate, but I don't know why YouTube would allow Pi to do this. Again, I don't download Pi. Don't know anything about it, but it's just weird that YouTube allows them to put ads on their site, but again, it might be a legal thing where they can't discriminate on who can put ads on. But again, I don't know anything about that.
Revealed that an initial psychiatric evaluation determined Sterling might have had schizophrenia. During the trial, his lawyer, Dwayne Cates, stated, his psychosis seems to struggle between being...
I feel like you would be diagnosed with schizophrenia before this happened. I think this guy was, 20 years old? I think they would have known if he had it. Maybe he developed it later on. I don't even know if you can.
Batman and the Punisher, which is significant because Batman does not kill anyone while the Punisher does. In late 2020, Matthew Sterling was sentenced to serve over 25 years in a mental hospital, where he remains today. In the end,
so he could get out around... He was 45, depending on how it goes there and everything. I'm pretty sure Phoenix will not allow him back in.
And it was fortunate that he hadn't actually harmed anyone and that he was caught before he could do any real damage.
Agreed.
The Japanese Joker attack. In 2019,
I know absolutely nothing about this. Japanese Joker what? Okay. It looks like it's based off the Joker movie that came off in 2019. Interesting. I'm excited.
Joker shocked the world with its dramatic and unique take on the...
So I'm a big DC fan. Batman's my favorite superhero, and I love his gallery of villains, and really dark Batman stories do really well with me. I did not think this was great at all. I do have thoughts on the second Joker movie too, but I don't think this was a great movie at all. It was interesting, but I saw it once or twice, and then I was like, I'm done with it for the rest of my life. I just didn't care for it.
The iconic supervillain. Instead of being a criminal mastermind,
Is he the iconic supervillain? Not if you watch the second movie. Okay.
Humble yet insane, Arthur Fleck was portrayed as a mentally ill loner who committed heinous crimes after completely snapping when society pushes him to the brink. Now, you guys remember this with a lot of chatter about would this movie cause real-world violence, and for the most part, that proved not to be the case. But an incident...
Normally, media stuff like this does not cause violence. Now, in a totally sick individual, it may be the inspiration for violence, but you got to remember, it's not the particular media that's causing this. It's literally anything. If a person is mentally sick, anything could cause them to commit heinous acts of violence because they're not getting the help that they need, or anything could cause them off. You can show them anything. Power Rangers. Pretty harmless. No one dies in it, but even Power Rangers can be all like, I'm going to take a sword and, do bad things. So the thing is, it's not the particular media. It's just the lack of help that these people are getting, and they need more. All right.
It did occur in 2021.
Also, there are people who actively choose to do bad things. You can't take that out of the equation either.
Mimic the actions of the supervillain. In October of that year, a then 24-year-old man named Kyoto Hattori boarded a Japanese subway train. Without warning, he pulled out a knife and began attacking passengers. He then would start a fire using lighter fluid that he had on hand, causing smoke to fill the entire car. Passengers can be seen in videos of the incident running in terror, climbing out of the subway car windows after it had come to a stop. Panic and confusion ensued, with the suspects soon being apprehended by authorities. In the end, he managed to cause minor injuries to 16 people, with one 72-year-old man being hospitalized after it was revealed he was stabbed. The ordeal caused quite the media stir, not just because incidents were rare like this in Japan, but because the guy was dressed like the Joker. Footage later surfaced of Kyoto smoking a cigarette while riding in the subway train car, seemingly fully LARPing as the Joker. When questioned, he claimed that he idolized the Joker and had wanted to kill as many people as possible. Apparently, in true Arthur Fleck Joker fashion, Kyoto claimed that he had been driven to this violence after hitting a breaking point, with the stress of society and drama in his personal life resulting in him hitting rock bottom. According to an article by the Japanese news company FNN, he had been devastated with grief after his girlfriend of 9 years broke up with him and married someone else just 6 months later.
Ouch.
And after that, he went Joker mode. He had also been transferred to a different department at his job after making a mistake, causing him to become borderline suicidal. When asked in court why he chose to imitate the Joker, he stated this: "I wanted to become like him."
I don't know if you know this, but your job ties very heavily in Japan to like your status and everything, and I know that's probably almost everywhere, but there is like, I don't know, your job is much more important in Japan than it is in America, for example. Like, you're not, normally you're not judged purely on your job. Sometimes in Japan you're judged a lot by your job. Just heads up.
The Joker doesn't value human life. He doesn't think anything of hurting people. I thought I couldn't commit murder unless I had that kind of feeling. It's an interesting case study, with the bizarre nature of the crime causing it to gain even more attention. The BBC released a think piece on the situation soon after, analyzing the cultural reasons as to why the event occurred, and commented on Japanese society in general. The article makes a point that several other similar attacks had occurred in the past. One particular incident from 2008 is mentioned when a man drove a truck into a crowd of people and began stabbing them. His reasoning for the attack had been similar to Kyoto. He faced pressure in his personal life, seemingly—
I'm guessing that was like from the second Batman movie, maybe, when the Joker tries to drive into or when Batman tries to drive into the Joker and misses him because he won't kill him. Again, I don't know what that's referencing, but Batman movie, maybe?
became suicidal and then took his frustrations out on society. When questioned by the author as to why he dressed up like the Joker, a Japanese criminal psychologist had this to say: "He is a distorted attention seeker. By dressing up as the Joker on Halloween..."
Again, like I was saying earlier, he's looking for attention because his girlfriend broke up with him, married someone else 6 months later, and then he lost his position at his work, or it got after a mistake. So he's looking for attention, and again, he's borderline suicidal, so he's just off the rails at this point.
Night, he thought he will stand out more. By acting like the Joker and saying he looked up to him, he can get more attention from the people. I don't think he decided to copy the Joker because he saw the movie.
Again, that was my point earlier. Any social media to any mental unwell person, it can be an inspiration for something, but it's not the cause. It's not the reason why.
Hattori was eventually sentenced to serve 23 years in prison, with the incident still remaining a topic of discussion in Japanese media even to this day. And well, you made it to the end. Let me know who or what you want me to talk about next. And I want to give a major shout out to my patrons. I appreciate you guys. Wavywebs surf out. Peace.
Okay, that was a pretty fun video to watch. We'll give it a like. I'll subscribe for now, see what else he's got in the future. But the cosplayer thing grabbed my attention for sure. Alright, well, that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.